Alright, so today we're working on the S2000, and the video I wanted to shoot today was on how to replace a front brake caliper in one of these cars. This is a 2003 S2000, and I recently changed the brake pads. As you can see, these are brand new G-locks, and while I was doing that I realized that on this specific corner the caliper piston boot was quite badly torn, and I just looked at the price for a new caliper and decided rebuilding it isn't really worthwhile, so I just ordered a new one. So I'm going to throw that on, and I think the order of operations here is going to be, of course I already have the car jacked up. If you don't know how, you can use this point right here under the car as a central jacking point, along with these areas where the pinch wells are reinforced. You can either use it here or here, it doesn't really matter. Then I'm going to, of course, take the wheel off, and I'm actually going to take the caliper off in two pieces. So I'm going to remove the caliper itself and then the bracket separately. Okay, so with the wheel off, here's what we're going to be dealing with here. So we have two 12mm caliper bolts that will allow us to remove this, and then afterwards we have two 17mm bolts for the bracket, which is, here's one, and the other one's over here somewhere. And also we have this banjo bolt for the brake line itself. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack open this banjo first, because with the caliper off and all swinging around, it would be kind of tough to do that on my own. So I'm going to just break it loose and seal it back up, kind of finger tight, so just so that I don't lose too much fluid. And then I'll remove the rest of the stuff, and I could just undo the banjo by hand after whenever I'm ready to do it. Okay. So I've replaced the caliper pins in my car recently when I did the brake pads. So mine are going to be 14s, but if you have a stock car, these are going to be 12s. Oh, and the banjo, which this is a 14 also. So I'm just going to break this loose and then tighten it back up with my fingers. Alright, so that's loose. I'm going to just do that, and that'll keep us from losing too much fluid. And then we can go ahead and remove the rest of these. Okay. And these should just pull away by hand, and you could find some place to rest this. I'm going to try and put this on the upper control arm here, like that. Hopefully it doesn't fall off. Now is a good time to either change your brake pads, or if you're going to be reusing them like me, just carefully remove them and put them somewhere where they're not going to get too dirty. Okay, now the brackets. Alright, so here's the bracket. The caliper's still there, that's fine. Alright, so with that done, now is a good time to kind of look at your new brake caliper or new hardware and find out, if anything, what you're going to have to transfer over from your old stuff. Now, I bought a CarQuest one. I just found this locally, so I have the caliper and the bracket, and I have what it looks like new shims, banjo bolt, and crush washers here. So I'm not gonna need anything from your old caliper, but if yours doesn't come with, let's say, shims, or if you just buy the caliper itself, just be prepared to or I guess not be prepared, just know before you take it apart what you're gonna need. just to avoid any hassle like that. So what I'm going to do with this though is I'm going to also install this in 2 separate steps. So I'm going to actually remove these caliper bolts, and then I'm going to just install the bracket only, torque that up, and then I'm going to transfer the banjo over from the old one to the new caliper, sorry, and then button everything up and we'll be done and good to go. So these are probably 12s. This is why I left the bracket on previously, just because getting these loose is, without any leverage, is kind of a pain. Oh, actually, before I'm going to install the bracket, I'm going to put these new shims on it. So, what they look like. They just kind of pop in place like that, and it shouldn't really fall off. Okay. Now take your old caliper bracket bolts and install your bracket. And what I would recommend is to put a dab of Loctite. Blue Loctite is what I use when you put these together, because it's something that you just don't want to risk having come loose on you. Alright, so I've gotten that kind of snugged up, and I'm going to torque it down now. And the torque spec for the caliper to hub bolts is 80 foot-pounds. Alright, with that done, now I'm going to reinstall the brake pads. So you do want to have some brake lube handy for this. You don't need a lot, but basically what you're wanting to do is lubricate all the surfaces where the brake pad is going to be sliding within this bracket. So basically I would lubricate these edges right here, this edge, this edge. There's no need to put anything here for both sides. And if you want, you could also put a dab into the shims and, you know, put it back together, and that'll be good to go. So. All right, and there's 2. Now we're ready to reinstall or install the new caliper. Okay. So now we're going to install and torque the new caliper. So we're just going to place this over and then install these 12mm screws back on. Now, at least mine is, and probably most are like this. If you buy them new, the piston will already be flush against this surface here. Which just means you'll be able to get these over your pads. If for some reason they are pressed out, what you can do is take your old brake pad and force them back in like that. And if that's too difficult, you can also release the bleeder screw, and that'll make it a little bit easier. But you should be able to do it by hand. Anyways, let's throw this thing back on. And no need to lubricate anything on the caliper. Okay. And again, I'm going to use my wrench to tighten it up, and then I'm going to torque it down. And the torque spec for this is 24 foot-pounds. That's spinning. So if your caliper bolts also spin like this, just grab a wrench to hold it in place and torque it down. For me, these are 19s. Might be different for you because this is aftermarket. Alright. Okay. Alright, so now that everything's torqued up, we could transfer over the brake line. Now, remember when we broke loose the brake caliper banjo here? Now we should be able to just, what we're gonna do is we're going to get our new hardware ready. And these ones came with new banjo and clutch washers. And how this works is you want to have one clutch washer on the bolt side and another one. Let's say, imagine the caliper, you're going to be bolting this in like this. You kind of want the two clutch washers to be like this. Okay, so, and you definitely don't want to reuse these. These are cheap enough. You can buy a generic case of these, various sizes on Amazon. So if you don't have it, just get new ones. It's not worth risking a leak for something like that. So I'm gonna have to move quick. We'll see how much fluid I lose. So like this. Oh, and I'm going to remove this cap from the new hardware, new caliper. I'm going to take this, put this one clutch washer on this side, another one on this side, and then bolt it in. Alright, so that's bolted in. Now the torque spec on that is 14 foot-pounds. Alright, with that, reinstall the wheel, or I'm sorry, don't reinstall the wheel yet. You want to bleed the brakes again first, and then you'll be all set and ready to go. So, thanks for watching, and see you next time.